If I hadn't noticed that the waiter handed me more than just the bill that night, if I hadn't looked down and seen those 3 words scrawled in shaky pen, "Get out now," I wouldn't be sitting here right now, safe, alive, telling you this story. I thought we were driving to the ocean, to find what we'd lost. But he wasn't taking me to the shore. He was taking me to the edge. My name is Courtney Brooks. And this is my story. If you've ever felt that sinking in your chest, that moment when your gut knows something's wrong before your brain catches up, listen to it. Because one day it might save your life. It saved mine. Sometimes you don't need evidence to know someone's lying. Just the silence is enough. You're standing in the kitchen, coffee warming on the stove, local radio mumbling something about traffic on I-35. And suddenly it hits you, he's not home. Again. Not by 8. And this is the 3rd time this week. And somehow, it doesn't even surprise you anymore. Eric and I had been married for 8 years. We met at a business conference in Dallas. He was a regional sales manager. I was doing interior design for a small firm. He had this smirk like he already knew your answer before you gave it. And that kind of charm that felt curated, not slimy. Like a well-placed cologne. He knew how to impress. And charm. And sell dreams. I fell fast. And stupid. We moved in together after 3 months. Married within 8. The first years felt like a fairy tale. Not because they were perfect, but because they felt unreal. Eric was supportive. Encouraging. He had this way of making the future sound like something we were building brick by brick. Together. And then 8 years passed. No kids. Not because we didn't try. 2 rounds of IVF, countless appointments. The doctors kept saying unexplained. Eventually I stopped. Eric said it was okay. That we still had us. And I believed him. Then my parents passed. Dad first, sudden, a ruptured artery. Then Mom, 6 months later. Quietly. And suddenly I was alone. With all their assets. Commercial properties in Austin. A lake house near Lake Travis. Investments, savings. Everything came to me. That's when things changed. On the outside, it looked like life got better. We moved into this massive house. Glass walls, custom floors, neighbors who waved over manicured fences. We got a Tesla. Took trips, Vail, Florida, Cabo. I quit work. Started a foundation to help women post-divorce. It all looked perfect. Too perfect. About a year ago, I started noticing changes. Small at first. Like someone was slowly swapping out parts of him. He stopped calling when he'd be late. Started taking his phone into the bathroom. Then came the calendar checks. Nothing dramatic, but before he couldn't even remember my dentist appointments. Now he was double-checking every block in my week. Who was that? I'd ask after a call. Oh, just work. Boring stuff, he'd say. No details. No names. No stories. Just walls. And then there were the finances. We used to track everything together. Every other Friday budget night. Spreadsheets, goals, plans. Until one day he says, "Babe, I'll take care of this, okay? There's a ton of corporate expenses lately. It's all blending together. You don't need to stress." "You sure? I just want you to relax. Let me handle it." That was the first time I felt the pause between us stretch into something colder. Something with teeth. I told Jessica, my best friend. She's a clinical psychologist. Has heard every kind of relationship mess imaginable. We met for coffee on South Lamar. I laid it all out, even the stuff I thought made me sound paranoid. She listened, then said, "Court, this doesn't sound like a rough patch. It sounds like someone laying the groundwork to disappear. You need to stay alert. Seriously." A week later, she called. "Courtney, I wasn't sure if I should tell you this. I was in San Antonio, had a client there. I already knew. I saw Eric," she said. "With a woman. Blonde. Gorgeous. They were holding hands. Laughing. You're sure it was him?" "Absolutely." I walked out for coffee and saw his face clear as day. He didn't see me. I left. But Courtney, it wasn't friendly. It was intimate. I didn't scream. Didn't throw things. I waited until he came home. "Were you in San Antonio last week?" "Huh. Oh yeah. Met with a potential client." "Why?" His face didn't freeze. But I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. "Jessica said she saw you." He laughed. "Small world. Honestly, babe, thought you'd be into surprises. But nope, always back to detective mode." He kissed my cheek. I didn't say a word. Because somewhere deep I felt it. This wasn't just distance. This was war. And I didn't even know the battlefield. 2 days later, he walked into the bedroom, grinning. "You know what we need? A new mattress?" "Nope. A trip. Just us. Old school road trip. like in the movies. Savannah, Georgia. Through Louisiana. You always said you wanted to drive that coast. I thought we'd fly. Now we drive. Motels, gas station snacks, coffee and thermoses. Come on, what do you say? I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to go, to see if we could fix whatever this was. But another part, the louder part, was screaming, "Don't." I'd gotten good at ignoring that voice. It got in the way of being the good wife. So I nodded. Okay, let's go. And that moment he hugged me. Really hugged me. First time in months. Whispered into my ear. Just remember, Courtney, I love you. No matter what happens. I nodded. But inside, everything was already cracking. I just didn't know yet. He wasn't taking me to the shore. He was taking me to the edge. And that trip? It was going to be our last. The morning felt almost normal. Eric poured me coffee like he used to. He even winked at me when I grumbled about him taking the last piece of banana bread. He acted like this was just a road trip, like we were actually headed to the coast to shake everything off and start fresh. I wanted to believe that, desperately, but there was something clawing inside me. That feeling, like when something's rotting in the back of a closet and you can't see it yet, but you already smell it. We were driving the old highway through Louisiana. I watched rain roll down the windows while the radio droned on about showers near Biloxi. If things had been okay, I'd have been snapping pictures of weird roadside signs and playing our usual game. Guess the tourist. But I stayed silent. And listened to his silence, too. Eric gripped the wheel like he was concentrating hard. Too hard. No selfies, no Spotify mood playlists. Just driving. Eyes flicking to the rearview mirror way too often, like he was waiting for someone. Or watching for someone. You okay? I asked. He perked up too quickly. Yeah, just the road. Want to get there before dark. You hungry? We could grab a bite. I nodded. Even smiled. Because I was still trying to be easy. We stopped in a tiny town that looked like 1987 had refused to leave. The cafe was called Maple and Maine. Inside smelled like cinnamon, burnt coffee, and melting plastic. Warm, but not cozy. Familiar in the worst kind of way. It was the kind of place where one waiter handles the whole room from 6 a.m. to midnight, with one break to smoke out back with Marlene from the kitchen. Our waiter was this guy in his 20s, ponytail, silver chain on his wrist. His name tag said Jake. He was polite, not pushy. When I ordered a chicken salad, he asked, "Grilled or fried, ma'am?" And he held my gaze a second too long. I didn't think much of it then. While we ate, Eric barely touched his food. He kept checking his phone, even though there was no signal outside. Once he got up, said he needed to make a call, and walked outside, phone pressed tight to his ear. He was gone maybe 3 or 4 minutes. When he came back, he looked lighter. But his eyes were colder. Like something had locked up inside him. Everything okay? I asked. Totally, he said. Then added, sorry, work stuff. I nodded. What else could I do? Stand up in the middle of the cafe and scream. I know you're lying. Based on what? When we finished, Jake came by with the check. All together? Yes, of course. Eric answered without even looking up. I'll be right back, he said. Restroom. He walked off. I opened the bill just out of habit. And there, tucked beneath the receipt, folded so neatly it almost disappeared, was a note. Tiny slip of paper. Neat handwriting. All caps. Get out. Now. I froze. My heart dropped straight through the floor. My skin lit up with goosebumps. It felt like someone had punched me, not in the face but straight into my gut. A joke. A mistake? Maybe it wasn't meant for me? I looked up. Jake was watching me. And then he nodded. Barely. Then tilted his head and motioned with his fingers. Outside. Left. I stood up. Walked toward the restroom. And turned. Out the back. The alley behind the building smelled like smoke and something too sweet. The kind of place that always feels like someone just left in a hurry. Jake was there. Alone. I know this is weird, he said immediately. But you have to go. Seriously. I just stood there. He kept talking, fast. A few weeks ago, your husband came here. With a woman. Blonde. Pretty. They weren't exactly low-key. He called her his wife. I overheard her ask, what about Courtney? And he said, Jake swallowed. I'll handle it. The trip's the final step. My hands went cold. I wanted to say it was a mistake. That he was wrong. But I couldn't speak. Jake kept going. Later, I heard him on the phone. Said, the doctors lined it all up. The breakdown confirms the diagnosis. Then guardianship, papers, clinic. He looked at me. It wasn't emotional. It was business. Cold. I tried to breathe. To stay upright. Why are you telling me this? I croaked. You could have just stayed out of it. Jake looked down. My mom, he said. Same thing. Her husband forged papers. Locked her up. Nobody saved her. I was just a kid. I couldn't stop it. He looked back up. I'm not letting it happen again. Then he added, I can take you to the sheriff. Nearest station's about 20 minutes out. My car's right there. And then I heard it. Eric's voice. Courtney? Where are you? We need to go. But the voice, it wasn't his. It was colder. Sharper. Commanding. He was coming toward us. Fast. And something about his face. It wasn't Eric anymore. Please, Jake whispered. This is your window. After this, it's too late. And in that moment, it all clicked. The phone in the shower. The money. San Antonio. The trip just for us. I wasn't paranoid. I was the target. And the plan had almost worked. Drive, I said. Now. We ran. Jake started the car. I looked back. Eric was on the lot, screaming my name, fists clenched in his hair, face twisted in rage. And I just kept going. We drove in silence. Jake kept his eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel, while outside the Louisiana night rolled by like a black ribbon. Everything felt flat. Like the road itself, no turns, no signs, just forward. No explanation. No comfort. Just forward. I stared at my phone, but I didn't see the screen. My mind was stuck on one question. What if I hadn't noticed the note? 20 minutes later, we pulled into a small town. One of those places that had a church, a bar, a sheriff's office, and not much else. Jake didn't ask me a single question. He just blinked on the turn signal and pulled up slowly in front of the sheriff's station. I'll wait here, he said. If you need a ride anywhere after this, just let me know. I nodded, took a breath, and stepped inside. The place smelled like burnt coffee, cleaning chemicals, and metal. A woman behind the front desk looked up at me, maybe 40, cropped hair, tired eyes. She took one look at my face and didn't ask if I was here about a stolen wallet. I told her everything. First a little out of order, shaky, but then clearer. When I got to the part about the fake diagnosis and the psychiatrist, she tensed. You willing to give a written statement? Yes. She pulled out some forms. I tried filling them out, but my hands shook so badly I had to start over twice. Look, she said gently. I believe you. But without evidence, we can't make an arrest. We can log the report. But your next move needs to be a lawyer. Protect yourself. Freeze everything you can. I nodded. And right then I knew. This wasn't a nightmare. It was a case. Jake drove me all the way back to Austin. 9 hours behind the wheel. He stopped only when I asked, didn't pry, didn't push. Just drove. Just showed up. When we reached Jessica's house, he got out, carried my bag from the trunk, and said, You're stronger than you think. Really? But if you ever need help again, any help, I'm around. I didn't know what to say. So I just hugged him. Then he was gone. Jesus, Courtney. Jessica stood in the doorway in pajamas, her eyes red. I was going out of my mind. I texted you for 5 hours. Phone died, I whispered. And I just couldn't. She pulled me in, made me toast, wrapped me in a blanket, and didn't say much else. Then she said, I know someone. A private investigator. Old friend of the family. Solid guy. You want to talk to him? Yes, I said. God, yes. His name was John Stanford. Somewhere between 40 and, I don't fight anymore, I just know things. Ex-FBI. Now a private investigator. He didn't take notes. Didn't interrupt. Just listened. I told him everything. From the late nights to the trip to the note to what Jake told me about the other wife. He sat back, calm as stone, then said, You're not the first. And unfortunately you won't be the last. These setups? They happen more than you think. But the good news? You got out. Now we prove it was a trap. 3 days later, he came back with a file. Printouts. Photos. Records. His name isn't Eric Brooks, John said. His real name is Eric Wilson. He changed it 6 months before he met you. He's legally married. Wife's name is Rachel Wilson. 2 kids. They live in Jackson, Mississippi. My stomach dropped. So I was the side project. Either that or a sham marriage. Legally, it's fraud. And this is just the beginning. He laid out photos. Eric with Rachel and their kids, standing in front of a porch with peeling paint and hanging plants. That same smile he gave me when I had a bad day. That same face. I felt sick. Why? I whispered. Money, John said. You were the perfect mark. No kids. Family inheritance. Trusting. He played the long game. Married you, waited. and then tried to erase you through a fake psych eval and guardianship. We even found a fake power of attorney using your forged signature. Rachel knew about me? She did. And it looks like this wasn't her first rodeo. She's been in contact with a private psychiatric facility in Georgia. Tried to prearrange documents for a long-term hold. The next day, I met Margaret Turner, Jessica's attorney. Tall. Sharp. Not a hair out of place. She listened to everything. Looked through John's folder. Took off her glasses and said, "This is ugly. But you did everything right. We're coming at this from 3 sides. Civil suit to void the marriage and recover damages. Criminal case for fraud, forgery, and attempted unlawful confinement. Asset protection, freezing accounts, flagging property transactions." And we moved. Fast. That day I froze all joint and personal bank accounts. Flagged all real estate assets for legal review. Filed a restraining order. Officially reported Eric to Austin PD. So here I am, sitting in Jessica's guest room, surrounded by files, screenshots, printouts. And I know this now. I wasn't his wife. I was his target. But now, he's mine. A year passed like a blur, like I was drifting through some alternate version of reality where every new day whispered the same truth. Everything I thought was mine, love, family, trust, was a lie. But now I knew with absolute clarity. I was no longer a victim. I survived. I won. The trial dragged on for nearly 10 months. Eric sat at the defense table, refusing to meet my eyes. He tried to look remorseful, but it didn't land. His attorney spoke about misunderstandings and emotional strain, but the expressions on the jurors' faces said it all. We're not buying it. The prosecution laid it all out. Phone logs, forged documents, the psychiatrist's statement, how he was prepared to diagnose me at Eric and Rachel's request. Investigators had even uncovered encrypted messages and a large transfer of funds to that so-called doctor. The evidence was overwhelming. At one point, even Eric's attorney looked like a man simply waiting for the verdict. When the judge finally said, "Eric Wilson is found guilty," I didn't cry. I just closed my eyes and exhaled. His sentence, 7 years in federal prison, a fine to the state, and partial compensation for the emotional and financial damage, wasn't revenge. It was justice. Rachel ended up in court too. Once she realized the case wasn't falling apart, she flipped. She confirmed the details of the plan, admitted that she and Eric had conspired to remove me as an obstacle to my inheritance. Given her lack of criminal history and the fact that she had 2 young children, the court gave her 3 years probation with 5 years supervision. The judge made it crystal clear. 1 violation, and the sentence would be enforced immediately. She kept custody of her kids but couldn't travel out of state, had to check in monthly with her probation officer, and was required to attend rehabilitation programs. I watched her from across the courtroom and felt a tangled mess of emotions. I didn't pity her, but I pitied her kids. They were innocent casualties in someone else's greed. When it was all over, I stepped outside the courthouse into absolute silence. I didn't want to talk. I just wanted to stand there and breathe. I opened a message on my phone. It was from Jason, the waiter from that diner, the one who had saved me by slipping me that note. "How are you? If you need anything, I'm here." I smiled. Wrote back, "Thank you. I'm alive. And I'm starting a new life." A few months after the sentencing, I made the final decision to leave Chicago. The apartment I had shared with Eric felt soaked in deception. I couldn't sleep another night in that bedroom, where he had played the role of a loving husband while secretly planning a psychiatric lockup. I put the place on the market. Moving wasn't an escape. It was coming home to myself. I chose Portland. Rainy, yes. Damp often. But alive and warm in the way that matters. I bought a small white house with a porch and a garden that I started planting with my own hands. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't just surviving, I was living. For me, the past didn't disappear. There were sleepless nights, flashbacks, moments when I could still hear Eric's voice, not in real life but in my mind. That fake "I love you," or the cold "everything's going according to plan." I went to therapy. I relearned how to trust people. And most importantly, myself. On the anniversary of the verdict, I received a letter from the district attorney's office. It confirmed that Eric was fulfilling his court-mandated obligations, serving his sentence with no chance of early release for at least 3 years. Rachel, according to reports, was complying with probation and under active supervision. Legally, the case was closed. Emotionally, I knew the ending was still unfolding, but this time it wasn't scary. It was mine. I started working remotely in financial literacy consulting, focusing on women recovering from abuse or divorce. I knew what it felt like to wake up in a stranger's life and try to claw your way back. I wanted to help others do the same. Sometimes I dreamed about that diner. The white coffee cup, the sunlight through the blinds, the smell of vanilla, and Jason's eyes. Sharp. Alert. He saw it. He acted. We kept in touch from time to time. No flirting. No expectations. Just two people forever linked by one terrifying, pivotal moment. And then one rainy morning I woke up and thought, why not write him? Not just a, hey, how are you? But, wanna come to Portland? I've got the best coffee and a few stories I'd love to share. I don't know what comes next. I'm not trying to guess. But I know exactly who I am now. My name is Courtney Wilson. I'm 36. I survived. I'm alive again. And no one is ever taking away my voice, my choices, or my freedom again. I don't know how to end this story in a beautiful way. Because stories like this don't wrap up in one neat sentence. But I do know this. Even if someone tried to break you, you can still choose yourself. I did. And now I'm free. If this story spoke to you, please support the channel, leave a comment and subscribe. It means the world to know you're out there. That you're listening. Take care of yourself. And trust your inner voice, it rarely lies.